Hi, welcome back. So now we're approaching the end of building this calculator. We've written all of our code and everything is pretty much set up, but now we need to bring it all together and put it in our main function. So pretty much what this is going to do is run the program from start to finish, starting with our instructions and ending with our ask again function. So we're going to be putting it all together in this. Now it's pretty easy to string it all together because we already have most of the layout set up. We want to print the introduction and instructions, then we want to get the user input, then we want to parse it and run the operations, and finally answer the user and ask them if they want to enter another command. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do obviously is print the introduction. Now we don't have anything returned from here and we don't really need to store anything, so we're not going to set this to a variable. Now this goes the same for our print instructions function. We just want to work with these two. Now I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this line and run the program just to see if it's working. And you can see, it still works fine. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward. The next function we want to do is get our user input. So we're going to store this to a variable since we want to capture the command that the user entered. So I'm going to put user underscore input is equal to get user input. Just like that. Let's go ahead and clear and run it again. So enter our command, add 1, 2, for example. So you can see that obviously nothing happens, but this is perfectly normal since we haven't added our logic yet. So the next thing we want to do is parse our user input. Now pretty much this returned an operation, so we are going to store that to a variable called operation, parse input. And it also takes an input of the command that we wanted. So we're going to pass in our user input variable. There we go. So let's go ahead and check if that works now. Add 1, 2. Now it doesn't print anything, so this is working just like it's supposed to. The next thing we want to do is run our operation. So what I'm going to do is go here. And let's see what it returns firstly. So it returns the answer that we need. Oh, whoops. Forgot to add the return there. That would have been a pretty bad mistake. Return answer. So there we go. We have it there. And now what I want to do is run our operation based on our operation class that we have here. So I'm going to say our answer is equal to run operation, passing in what we got from our parser. Finally, the last thing I want to do is answer the user, and we will do the get again in just a second. So we're going to say answer user, and then pass in our answer. And of course, this doesn't actually store anything, it doesn't output anything, so we don't need to store it to a variable. Now we have a main loop set up, but what if we wanted to play again? Now pretty much what we're going to do, and this is how most programs do it, is that we are going to assume that the user does not want to play again. So we're going to pretty much find a way to store in the computer that the user doesn't want to play again. We're going to run our ask again function, and if the user answers yes, then it's going to change that assumption from the computer to true, and it's going to continue the loop. Now, what we're going to do is use a for loop. So first of all, I'm going to say again is equal to false. So this is assuming that the user doesn't want to play again. Now, to make this a little bit easier, I'm actually going to change this to true, because if I used false, it would have been a really hard way to get the loop running. So just assume that for now, we're going to set it to true, and I'll show you how we can just flip this completely towards the end of the video. So now we are going to say a different kind of loop. It's called a while loop. Now, we've used for loops in the past, and pretty much it goes for number and it loops through a list and assumes each item. But pretty much a while loop works by saying while some condition is true or false. It depends on what kind of approach you want to take. So the way you write it is while, and then you say the condition. So what I'm going to say here is while again is equal to true. Now there are ways to refactor this that I'm going to go over in the next video, but this is going to pretty much say that we're going to run this loop as long as again is equal to true. Now we have to indent everything here. And now what I'm going to do is run our ask again function. So I'm going to say ask again. And remember, this outputs something, true or false. So what I'm going to do is say again is equal to ask again. So this is going to ask them, would you like to enter another command? And remember, if they enter no, this is pretty much setting again to false, which breaks the loop. So there we go. This is pretty much how you can use it. Now, if you wanted to say, for example, let's start off assuming that they don't want to play again. All you'd have to do is change this to while again is equal to false. And pretty much what's going to happen is that if they answer no, then it's going to set again to false. So you can kind of see why you wouldn't want to run this. If they don't want to run another command, this is just going to go back to the top and run it again. So you're going to need to change the approach that you take with again is equal to false. Now, I'm not going to go over how to do that in this video, because for now, I just want to, create a very basic loop where you can do this. So I'm going to say again is equal to true and while again is equal to true. So there we go. We have that set up, and now we can continue looping pretty much indefinitely. But let's go ahead and run our function and see what happens. Now we're assuming that this works perfectly. Let's go ahead and say add 1, 2. Would you like to enter another command? Now you can see that it completely just skips over the part where we answer our user. So this is a pretty big problem when we're going over this. Now in the next video, we're going to go and actually debug this and go through and see what are the problems. And I'm going to go over some pretty common techniques that you should use to debug. All right, let's move on.